Hey there, welcome to Hobie on YouTube, and thanks for taking a look at this. I've got what has to be a pretty rare one here, guys, at least a very odd one. This is a six-bladed utility knife in the style of a Swiss Army knife with the corkscrew and the awl here on the back. But as you can see, it's in red fiber scales with bird's eye rivets here, those hinge pins with the washers around them. But it was sold by none other than Ka-Bar. And this is just not the kind of knife you expect to see from Ka-Bar. Now you may have noticed I said sold by Ka-Bar because I don't really think this knife was made by Ka-Bar, at least not in its entirety. And I'll talk about that more in a moment. But here you can see the tag stamp, Ka-BAR, all in capital letters. This would date this knife from 1923 to 1950. According to Goins' Encyclopedia of Cutlery Markings, back when the company that made this knife, or sold this knife rather, was still called Union Cutlery Corporation. They used the Ka-Bar brand and stamping from 1923 forward, but they didn't officially change their name to Ka-Bar until like 1951 or 2. And at that time they changed the stamping to lowercase letters. So if you have a Ka-Bar that's all uppercase letters like that, your knife's somewhere between 1923 and 1950. I think this knife is probably closer to the end of that range, probably made in the 40s. And I think it was probably made by someone other than Ka-Bar, because I don't see really many other Ka-Bar knives like this. And it, the red fiber scales and the bird's eye rivets are something you often see from knives out of Europe. Some of the tools, like this three-sided awl with the one rounded side, I call that a European style awl because you see it so much on European knives, especially German utility knives. The corkscrew, I've got no other Ka-Bar corkscrews to compare to. But this one is very tightly wound, very kind of narrow, slender. It's very sturdy, but it's a very slender, narrow, four-turn corkscrew. And that just doesn't look like Ka-Bar stuff. Now, the blades do. This blade with the long nail pull and the match striker looks very much like the blade on another Ka-Bar four-bladed Scout utility knife that I did a video on. I'll put the link up here if you want to go look at that. I'm not going to go into the history of Ka-Bar and Union Cutlery Company in this video because I did in depth in that video. So if you want to learn more about the company, go there, please. But yeah, that knife had a very similar blade. Now it didn't have this pen blade I'm showing you because it was a four-bladed Scout utility knife with a punch there, but you can see that this pen blade on this model is very similar to the main blade. It's very thick, has the long pull with the match striker, and is swedged the length of it. Now these opening tools, they do look like a Ka-Bar. They look like my Ka-Bar Scout knife in that video. The screwdriver cap lifter has this straight pull. Very unusual. And the can opener, the sickle style or broken D style can opener, looks very much the same as what was on my Ka-Bar four-bladed Scout knife. But that's kind of where the similarities end. And this is an odd little knife. Let me just show you some of the odd features about it. First of all, you'll notice that it's not an equal-ended knife. It actually tapers down here to the bail end. And it's not really a symmetrical taper. It seems to kind of taper from the top side while the bottom stays pretty constant or flat. And that's unusual. And the other thing that's really strange about it, and it didn't hit me at first, and then I was like, wow. But the corkscrew and the awl, typically on these type of knives, are down here at this end, on the bail end or down by the can opener end. They're not on the end with the main blade and the screwdriver cap lifter. And typically the awl is in the front and the corkscrew is in the back. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Here's a pre-1937 Victorinox officers and sports knife, and as you can see with the main blade here and the screwdriver cap lifter here, these tools are back here, and the awl is on the front, corkscrew on the back. Here's a German knife, six-bladed utility knife. This is an SMF, and it's the same layout. These tools opposite of those tools, all on the front, corkscrew on the back. Here's a Hinkles, J.A. Hinkles, and same layout. Screwdriver cap lifter, blade on this end, down here on the opposite end, all on the front, corkscrew on the back. Now, I do want to point out that humpback camp knives or campers, while they have the tools down here on this end, away from the main blade and screwdriver cap lifter, they typically do have the corkscrew in the front and the awl in the back. But this is still just a very odd little arrangement. And yeah, as I said, I can't really find any other examples. As a matter of fact, the only good information I can find on K-bar scout type knives is in a Knife World article all the way back on March of 1997 by Dennis Ellingson. And it was titled simply K-bar utility scout knives. It's an excellent article, but it mostly covers four-bladed scout knives by K-bar. There is a discussion of a rare seven-bladed scout knife in there, but it was just a four-bladed knife with three other cutting blades put in the top. There's no mention, pictures, or anything else about a six-bladed utility knife in this Swiss Army knife style in that article. Now, he does show some K-bar scout knives that have red fiber scales and bird's eye rivets, just like this one. But they are four-bladed models, they're oversized, they're about 4 inches, and they're stamped camp knife. Now, there are a couple, I think, on eBay currently for sale. Here's a picture of one that was on eBay a while back, so you can take a look at it. Dennis Ellingson believes that those knives were made by Robeson for K-bar. And I do have a Robeson scout knife I can show you. This one is from the 1920s or 30s, so it's a little older. Obviously, it's in brown bone handles and has bolsters here. But the reason that Dennis Ellingson thinks that Robeson made those knives for K-bar is because you'll see that they have this very characteristic Robeson combination can opener cap lifter. And because they have that tool, they have a screwdriver that looks like this. Because the cap lifter is on the can opener, you don't need it on the screwdriver, so it's just square like that. And some of them have a file here on the edge like this one does. But as you can see, this knife does not have those tools. It actually has tools that are very similar, if not the same, as my four-bladed K-bar scout knife did. So while I really don't know who made this knife, at least in its entirety, I can think it was not Robeson. So this knife is like 3 5/8 inches long in the closed position. That's like 92 millimeters, and just coincidentally, it's also 92 grams, which equates to about 3 1/4 ounces. So it's kind of heavy for a Swiss Army knife style knife of this size. But it is built like a little tank. If you look at it, you can just see how thick, for instance, that center brass liner is. It's a really nice little knife, if not an odd one. I just don't know much about it, so I'm going to reach out for help. Do any of you have one of these? Do any of my viewers, do any of you know of one of these? Have you seen any pictures online? Any discussions on any of the forum threads? Any information that you might have would help me quite a bit. Again, by the tag stamp, it's going to be dated somewhere between 1923 and 1950. It's got these red fiber scales with bird's eye rivets, and it is 6-bladed with the corkscrew and the awl on the back. So, yeah, help. And thanks for watching.